All right, Brenda, we are
Afternoon, I
back.
guess, technically.
Yeah. It is. I'm used to saying good morning at this point of the day, but this is where it changes. Either
Yeah,
way, good morning, good day, good day.
it's a
How are
good
you?
day. We're all glued to the TV to see where the hurricane is coming.
Yeah. Make sure our sound is good. Check your mic. I just want to see registration. I heard you, but I need to make sure they did. Say something again. Just anything. Speak, Brenda.
Hey,
There we
good
go. Okay, good.
afternoon.
And Crystal,
I
say
thought you were
something.
talking to yourself.
No, I'm trying to test mics. I hear you, but I wanted to make sure on the stream they did. So,
Okay.
gotcha.
And me? Testing, testing.
Yes. I think we're good. Everything looks good on my. Okay, cool. We're set up. We have 19 beautiful people with us today. Delene Howell's already commenting. Hi there. How are you? Good. Glad you are all with us. So, it's funny. This morning, I was at a conference for networking, and somebody said, they were like, "Oh, hey, you home educate, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And they were like, "Oh, it sucks for you guys. Everybody's getting out of school because there's the hurricanes coming and they're sending everybody home, and you guys are probably like, yeah, get back to work." And I started laughing. I was like, "Yeah, actually, we look at it like this. We're like, hey, hurricanes are coming. Get out your textbook, kids. We're gonna learn about tropical depressions. Somebody go grab a flag and see which way the wind's blowing." That's school credit right there. Don't pass it up. Oh man. And then I get home and Crystal says this. I was telling her about it. She goes, "No joke." Say it, Crystal.
Yeah, it was like, no joke. I actually woke up this morning thinking, I think I have a unit study on hurricanes on my computer. I should print that for the kids.
It's like, welcome
We
to
get
home
so
education.
excited. It's the teachable moment.
Yes. Yes. Everybody else looks at it and they're like, danger, run. And we're like, wait a minute, we could learn something. Hold on. Oh man. Anyway, good day. Glad to have everybody with us. I want to start with something a little different than what we normally start with. We usually jump right into things, but I have something that I kind of want to celebrate with everybody. So we have on our website a recognition wall that we have put up. And the recognition wall is a special place for our donors who are supporters at the $100 a month or higher tier. And typically, they have a business that benefits off of home education, but some of them not. Some of them that we've been getting requests for, they want to donate. Some of them are lawyers, a home inspector. They just love families and freedom, and they want to support a lobbyist that is there to lobby for parents to continue to have their freedoms to home educate. They love the idea. So we put a recognition wall up, and I wanted to celebrate some of these. We have HED, we have Saints, we have the Hub. I want to give, where are my sound effects? I'm missing them. We got to clap for people. Yeah, let the crowd go. That's right. We have CHEC, we have Cedar, the Homeschool Hive. I believe this is pronounced Skole. I could be wrong, but we have many but one. And then will you be next? Anybody who donates or supports us at this tier, at the $100 a month or more tier, gets a mention here on our recognition wall with the county that they serve and a link out to their website. I just want to say thank you to all of these wonderful companies in our home education community. And we are getting there. We are working toward being able to fully fund our Florida lobbyists for home education, and we're getting there. We're absolutely getting there. So if you get a chance, and maybe you're able to and you want to, that tier is right here on the website under support us. It's the $100 a month tier. And if not, as an individual, that's fine. There are plenty of other tiers that you can throw your hat in, and $5 a month is like a cup of coffee. Go for it. We're working really hard to try to raise enough funds to fully support a full-time lobbyist and run all of the back-end support that we're doing on the site, and we're growing. It is coming along, and we're thankful. We're not there yet, but it is coming along. So thank you. If you know, I'll go back to that page as well. If you know any of these wonderful sponsors personally, reach out to them and tell them thank you on our behalf. Tell them that you saw this, you saw that they support us, and you want to tell them thank you. If you see anyone from here, tag them. Absolutely. We want to show them love. We appreciate everything that they're doing for us. Without further ado, I'll talk about the forum since I already have that page up. Crystal has been working hard in the forum. We get a lot of questions that come in, and these questions, some of them are the same questions we see like 1 million times a day, and I'm not exaggerating by maybe 5. So I stretched that by maybe 5. But we get a lot of questions, and a lot of them have been answered here. So if you're new, if you've just jumped in, we've got 31 people on now. If you've just jumped in or you're new and you just saw this in your feed or whatever, the PEP FAQ is right here in the forum, and you can dive in and read. Everybody says, oh, I think I have a unique situation. It's like, I know that. We all think that. But dive in and read some of these questions. Browse through them, because there's a lot here. And a lot of the questions that we get that people think are the first time it's been asked are not. And while it takes a lot of time on the phone with Step Up or districts or colleges or parents or Brenda, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. It really, really helps to kind of come here and get the information direct. You know, Facebook groups are awesome. But I've seen some of the Facebook groups have some misinformation kind of bouncing around, or people start speculating about this or that. And the answers that come here are straight from our lobbyist organization, straight to you with the most accurate as possible information on them. If something changes, we try to pull down old posts and get them updated so everything stays current. All right. That being said, Crystal and Brenda, you guys have a couple of questions you want to dive into from here.
Yes. Brenda, did you want to start with talking about the districts, and then I can go through some questions
No,
after?
I think let's go ahead and talk about the questions that you have, and then
Okay.
we'll add at the end.
Okay. So I've been getting a lot of common questions. So I have just kind of a short list of 5 questions that I've been getting over and over again that I kind of just wanted to hit today, because I think it's going to help a lot of people since, like I said, I'm seeing it a lot. So the first one is, how do I tell if I have been approved for PEP, and then what do I do next? What I'm going to explain assumes that you applied through Step Up. I really don't have as much information about what the process for AAA looks like. So if you applied through AAA, then that's going to be a different, this information probably won't apply to that. That's going to be a different process. But for Step Up, when you are officially approved for PEP, you will get an email that specifically says your student's PEP award confirmation. Are you putting other questions up? I see something popping up on the screen.
Yeah, no one sees that. That's for my notes. They're listening
okay,
to you.
I can see it.
You can see it, but they see 3 talking heads.
Okay.
You just stay focused on each other.
Yes. So when you first apply for PEP, this is the part that I wanted to explain. When you first apply for PEP, you are applying through their FES-EO application, which is actually the private school scholarship. So you will get an email from them saying you have been awarded a scholarship, but that does not necessarily mean you have been awarded PEP. So once you get that initial email, you will then get a second email from them asking you to select PEP, to specify that you want PEP. And that will send you to a link where you will have to actually put in your student's information and specify that you wanted to have the PEP scholarship. I've heard from some people that they never received that second email. So if you did not, you need to reach out to Step Up, because until you've completed that second step of the process, they won't have you in their system as a PEP applicant. They'll only have you in the generic FES-EO part. Once you have done that second part, then it will just be a waiting game. A lot of people got notified last week. I know a lot of people are also still waiting, but what you're looking for in terms of emails is the one that says your student's PEP award confirmation. It specifically says PEP in the email, and then it gives you the steps of what to do next. If you haven't received that email, you can also check inside your portal, because when you have been switched over to PEP, you will see the status of your scholarship program change in their system from FESEO to FTC PEP. So if you see PEP as your scholarship program type, then you've been switched over to PEP. You will not see funds in your account yet because the funds haven't been released yet, but you will see that award status and it will specifically say FTC PEP. If you don't see that, then you're probably still just waiting as long as you have completed that second step where you told them you wanted PEP. So I just wanted to clear that up because a lot of people are confused by the sequence of emails and the fact that they say awarded. But that is what you're looking for, is either that FTC PEP status inside StepUp or that email that says your student's PEP award confirmation. The reason I'm saying either or is because I've heard some people have logged in and seen their status change, but they haven't yet received the email. So there might be a delay between when you switch and when you get that email.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we've got a couple of questions coming in, I think,
Okay.
somewhat in response to these, but finish what you were saying. There's more.
I was going to say that email will give you some instructions of what you need to do next. One of them is to submit your student learning plan. You do that inside StepUp's portal, their Emma portal. There'll be, when you log in, it'll be right there on the dashboard. It's easy to find. It's a very simple checklist kind of process. It's not complicated. Other people have been asking me about the sworn statement that they were told they have to do. That's actually something in the agreement terms when you first apply to PEP. It's not a separate thing you have to send in. It's that there was sort of a list of like terms and conditions that you agreed to in order to select that you wanted PEP in the StepUp process. And then the other thing that you'll need to do is to withdraw your student or terminate, depending on if you're home ed or if you're in a private school or whatever. Once you have that PEP award confirmation, you will need to remove them from whatever other form of schooling they were in. So if you were home educating, that will mean submitting a letter of termination to your county. If you were in a private school or a public school, that will mean contacting the school to unenroll them. Because once you've received the PEP award confirmation, that is their education track. It is their track for meeting that attendance requirement for the state of Florida. Okay, so now that I've finished that, so what other questions came in?
So we've got a couple of new people, so maybe we should start every one of these with the kind of groundwork questions that people, I think, really truly get driven here for. And let me find them, because they're, as people comment, it bumps where I'm at. Should we be concerned that we have to unenroll as a homeschooler? This is a concern for many. It depends on what you mean by concerned. PEP, the Personalized Education Program, was set up in legislation to mirror home education as closely as possible. And that mirroring affords it a lot of the same exact, in legislation, flexibility and opportunities that home educators have. There's a follow-up question to that someone asked, because that's a broad stroke question. In my opinion, I think no, because Brenda also worked very hard to get home education and PEP separate in legislation. That way, home education is a track that if you join PEP and you like it and then decide you don't like it, you can unjoin PEP and go back with a letter of intent and home educate again. So it's two separate tracks on purpose, and I think that clarity and separation is something unique to Florida that a lot of other states are not doing. A lot of the funding in other states is in the home education sector. So it's really unique in the way that it is set up. There was another question that was a follow-up to that. Should we be concerned? Then there was, is it true that there will be a government employee who will be assigned to oversee my family's education? This is something I've heard, but don't know if that's true. No. There are choice navigators, and they're given certain.
But those are optional.
Right, and they're optional, and they're given a scope of responsibilities. Your lesson plan that you come up with is also only very loosely. It's not overseen. What's the word? You have to lay it out for them, but it's very loosely.
Yeah, it's for accountability, but it even says in the process that you can change it at any time, and no one is checking or approving it
Very
or using it to control anything.
It might help for flexibility.
It might help for Brenda to kind of chime in on her reason for why she fought so hard to get things separated in statute, and also to chime in on the whether this means that someone is overseeing or controlling, because those are both things that Brenda fought very hard to protect us from. So,
sure.
Yes, we worked really hard to keep this in the private sector, which is why the scholarship funding organization is implementing the scholarship. It handles the money. They both AAA and Step Up have to follow what's in statute. But the original bill had a requirement, a mandate that a parent have a choice navigator. It didn't define it. It didn't define the duties. And we argued against that because parents are the educators. So it ended up with it being a choice that parents can use their scholarship funds to employ somebody. Now, your normal home education evaluator, if they are a certified teacher, and they have to be, could qualify as a choice navigator. So it's not like some person you don't know. It's just that you're going to be able to use your scholarship funds to pay for their services now. So it's really, there's no government oversight. Nobody's going to be looking at your individual child's test scores. If you don't want to use a choice navigator and you want to pay for somebody to help you, if you want somebody to help you choose the curriculum or plan their college, their 4 years in high school looking toward college and what should they take, that's up to you. There's no mandate in this bill and law now.
Yeah, that's good. The tag-along question that was a follow-up to that is, at what point will homeschool records be cross-referenced for PEP? Can parents wait until after funding drops to make sure? I'm not quite sure what they would wait to make sure of, like maybe whether they want to keep it or take it. Can they wait until funds drop to decide? I think at this point.
I think what they're asking, because I've seen similar questions, and whoever posted this, if I'm not interpreting correctly, let us know in the comments.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I think what they're asking is, can I wait until funds drop in my account to be sure I actually have PEP and I'm actually funded for PEP before I terminate or withdraw from my other method of education? Because some parents are nervous about the fact that it says awarded, but there's no funds in their account yet. So I think that's the question. But like I said, if not, clarify that in the comments.
Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, answer it. Yeah.
Sure. So we have been advising parents to wait until you receive confirmation that you've been awarded, which is the process that I explained a few minutes ago. But funds are not dropping for anyone until September. So in the cutoff for having everything submitted, I think Step Up might be allowing a grace period, but their initial cutoff that they had said was August 31st, that they wanted everyone to have, if you need to submit a letter of termination, do that by August 31st. Complete your student learning plan by August 31st. So I don't know if that timeline has changed or not. But what I am advising people to wait on is that award confirmation status and Step Up in the email. If you have that confirmation status, you will be funded. Step Up has said that is what they're going by. So you can expect for funds to appear in that account sometime in September. My understanding is that Step Up gets the funds released to them September 1st, but we may not necessarily see them in our account right on September.
That exact date.
Yeah.
That's when the cross-checking will take place.
Got you.
you won't get the funding until they've cross-checked to make sure that you are no longer enrolled in the district.
So if they're cross-checking after, that's why they're saying August 31st is that deadline. Because if they start cross-checking and you haven't met those requirements, then you might not get your funds dropped.
Okay. And then if someone's account says FTC inside the account, but it doesn't say PEP, but they know they filled out the survey, do they just wait or should they reach out to Step Up?
I'm honestly not sure on that one because FTC by itself wasn't at first something that people were seeing. They were either seeing SESEO or FTC PEP. So I don't know if that's an in-between step as Step Up is switching people over. I'm really not sure. So you may want to reach out to them and see if you can get an answer on that because I've seen that in the last few days. I've seen several people saying that, but that's not something that I know. I don't know what that means. So.
Yeah. Okay. There are other ones that are more closely related to that, so I'll hit those real quick. Did we get any information regarding the glitch of accounts who were already showing PEP and then were not? Like they were showing declines? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Any update on that?
The latest that we had on that was that was a glitch caused by them switching people over.
Right.
So I'm assuming that if you've been switched over, that should have resolved. If it hasn't resolved yet, you might just still be waiting to be officially switched back over. But you can, you can absolutely reach out to Step Up and ask them and just make sure. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then my children are currently attending, and this is probably a Brenda question. It's a very long one, so bear with me, but it's also related. My children are currently attending an FESEO participating private school. After 10 days of attendance, the school gets the first quarter's funding. That 10-day time frame has come and gone, and we're still waiting for our account to change to FTC PEP. My question is, am I still supposed to unenroll as soon as I get the email to do so? Or am I supposed to wait until the first quarter is over? That's the first question.
Wow.
Yep.
I don't know that I have an answer to that. That would be a step-up question in the process.
Yeah, I think that's a step.
I think you should reach out to their call center and try to get an answer on that one. Because I don't know what happens to the funding if it goes to the school and you unenroll.
Right.
I'd have to go back and look through the statutes relating to the FESEO to see what happens. And I don't have those in my mind to give you a definite answer.
Yeah, she's mostly worried about truancy laws as well, but also don't want to get bumped from her PEP by not unenrolling them right away if she needs to. So
I wouldn't worry about the truancy laws because you are enrolled in a private school. But the question that I see is, are you going to get the funding for the first quarter or not, since the funds have all... Well, actually, I don't know that the school has actually gotten the funding because I think the funding for all of these programs dropped September 1st. So that's something you need to check with your school on.
Yeah, I think so. All right. And then is there any workaround for hybrid homeschools that report attendance to state DOE? I'm sorry, I chuckle every time I see the word hybrid now. Let me back up. Straight face. Is there any workaround for hybrid homeschools that report attendance to state DOE, but we don't attend full time, so also can't use the private school scholarship either? School is unwilling to work with us.
There's not really a workaround. I think that you probably need to choose a different program if they're not willing to work with you. They're probably not willing to work with you because they don't meet the eligible private school requirement.
Right.
And they can't. So unless they have a building and they meet all of the requirements in statute 1002.421, they can't be an eligible school. So all this says is what you can use your PEP funds for. And if they're not an eligible school, you can't use those funds to pay for classes there or be enrolled. Enrollment is one issue. How you use your funding is a separate issue. And you can't be enrolled in two options and be in attendance. You're either attendance full-time in one or the other. You don't do part-time attendance.
Right. And we've been through this before where, hybrid schools are a term we use to talk about things that we think make sense to us, but legally they're not mentioned in statute. So it's usually a composite of other things that are mentioned in statute, but are only fit partially, and they're kind of mixed matching. So technically, hybrid schools typically are done through a private school or some sort of venture therein. So just be very careful that we're using the language in the legislation. It really helps clear things up. I know that we had an issue earlier where someone, I can't remember who it was they were talking to, but when we went back to the language that's in legislation and we started using those words to talk about it, it kind of cleared up everything. They were like, oh, this makes a whole lot more sense now. I was doing this, that's private school oriented, and it switched gears in their mind when they went to see it through the different lens. Anyway, I feel like we beat that a lot, but
just to clarify one point on that, when Brenda and I spoke to Step Up a couple of weeks ago, they said that what they're looking at is whether you are enrolled and the private school reports attendance for you. So if you are enrolled and the private school is reporting attendance for you as a private school student, then that disqualifies you for PEP because, like Brenda said, you can't be in two tracks at once. So that's what they're looking for. If you are just contracting with the school to take classes there and you're not enrolled as a student, then, like Brenda said, it becomes an issue of whether that's an eligible private school that you can use PEP funds for. But if you're enrolled, then it's a different issue, or it's a second issue, I guess, if you want to look at it that way.
Sweet. I'm excited about this next question. Jason Vega. Hi there. Welcome. He says, my kids were always in public school. This month, we submitted a letter of intent to home educate. Can we give a clap? Can we get like a resounding clap for that? That is awesome. Yes. All right. Welcome to home education. He said, with PEP, do we now have to do something different? So let's clarify that. He's brand new. Remember, this public school guy, right? So let's slow it down and walk him through it, Jason.
Do you want me to go or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Crystal.
So yes, I'm not sure if you just jumped on the video, so I'm going to kind of just give a summary of what we covered a few minutes ago, just in case. PEP and home education are two separate tracks in statute. Intentionally. Yes, but intentionally. Because Brenda fought hard to make sure that home education law would be protected so that in the event that there is additional regulation added to PEP in the future, parents have the option to just say they don't want to take PEP anymore and return back to traditional home education. So in statute, they are two separate tracks for mandatory attendance, for satisfying that attendance requirement. So if you want to use PEP, then you will need to submit a letter of termination to your county, but I wouldn't do that until you are confirmed as having been awarded PEP. And it's not a big deal if you just submitted your letter of intent to then turn around and submit letter of termination. The districts, I'm sure, are seeing a lot of that right now as people decide to take PEP if they didn't know about PEP before or whatever. But yes, you would need to submit a letter of termination once you have been awarded PEP, because you can't be in two tracks at the same time. You can't be doing home education and PEP or home education and private school. You have to choose which track.
So once they heard that question, we had a couple of more who said this is their first time as well. So we've got, where was it? Amanda Lazarde, Jessica Castillo, and Jason Vega, all brand new brand new home educators right out of the public school system.
Welcome to home education.
Yeah,
Great.
this is what's beautiful about your freedoms.
There is so
Welcome.
much freedom out here in home education. Whether you're doing PEP or traditional home education, there's a lot of freedom in the
Yes.
state of Florida, thanks to Brenda.
And I don't know when you joined, so I'm going to double down on it. Go over, let me go back over to our website here real quick, flhef.org. And the top menu, you're going to see a live forum. In this live forum, there is so much you can benefit from. HEF, we lobby for your freedoms and to home educate, and we try to, as best as we can, to protect those or work with people who are struggling to get some of the organizations that they're working with to see them and accept them. And so we'll collaborate and come alongside and help. But we aren't curriculum choosers. So there's a lot of information in here that is supplied by veteran homeschoolers for stuff like that. And then there are ways to connect with other co-op leaders or home education instructional programs. There are several from our recognition wall that are local. Dive into those. And then the FAQs on how all this works. It is a deep resource for getting started and kind of dipping more than a toe in. Read through there. You're going to have a lot of questions, and there are a lot of answers, and we are working hard to make sure that they stay up to date for you. But welcome aboard. We are so glad to have you here home educating, so it's really awesome. All right, back into more questions. I keep losing place. There's so many that just keep coming in. That is not true. We already did that one. Good. It's taking a lot of time to work through a technical stack that they had with someone's son's account because the name on the driver's license didn't match. Blah, 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 blah. It is, he's EO in time to get PEP. Is there any standard for how long they should take to resolve a tech support ticket? That is a step up, I believe.
Yes, it's a step up question. They really have a lot of people that they're dealing with and new what do you call it, Jason, where the whole system has been updated. Emma is brand new.
Developers,
there's some glitches in there, and they are doing their dead level best to get them all fixed. But
they really are.
A massive amount of people and issues that they're dealing with. So
yeah, and as a marketer and a designer, so I live in the marketing world, we deal with building websites and tech, and I know that some of our people out there watching have husbands or they themselves are also involved in anything that's tech related. There are sometimes just issues that you run into in a system where you kind of have to back up 7 or 8 levels and resolve it at a different level and then keep building from there out. And meanwhile, it makes it very cumbersome on a user experience level, because we look at it and we go, where did my button go? And I'm upset my button's not there anymore. And I really wish my button was there. I need to know when to click it. And I can't click it right now, you know? And there are like a million different things that have to happen to get that button to come there. And we don't always fully appreciate what it takes to get a button there. It just seems so easy when I click the button and it does things, and that's nice. But I would urge you to have patience. They are doing the best that they can, and they're doing an awful lot. And if they're getting as many questions that are repetitive as we are, that's why we put a forum up so that people could go check and get some of those early level questions answered without tying up. I mean, I have another full-time job, and my wife, she does her own thing too. Like, we do this, but this is easily turned into full-time jobs answering questions that turn out sometimes to be the same question over and over and over, just a new person asking it. So help everybody out. Check the forums. Absolutely. Do the base groundwork. Check the forums. It alleviates some of the pressure off of the call lines, and they can get to issues they really have to help when we can get to information that we're making for ourselves available. So dive into those forums. Poke that again. So
yes, and Brenda and I, especially Brenda, are in communication with Step Up. So we don't have all the information about all the nuances of what's happening on their end. But if we do hear something, we try our best to communicate that to you guys as soon as we have that information. So like just a few days ago, Step Up sent us their documentation about the reimbursement cards, and we posted that in the forum to make it easy for you to access. So if we know something that Step Up has told us in terms of a time frame or something new that's coming or a new development, we're doing our best to communicate that, but we don't necessarily know their tech support side or what they're doing on the back end. So
yeah. To that note, I got an email a text this morning. They to date have 11,400 approved PEP programs and so we still have a little less than half of those scholarship slots to be filled. There are people backed up that they're trying to get approved, and we were told last week or the week before that they were trying to roll out those approvals on a weekly basis. Something must have happened because some people who've been in the queue a long time still haven't been rolled out. So make sure the problem's not on your end. And I believe, like in the past, there may be a little bit of flexibility if you are in the queue. They haven't filled the scholarship slots. They may be able to work out after the August 31st deadline getting you in the program because you've been in the queue. So just be patient and realize that they're trying to get it all worked out, and stay on top of it. Keep checking daily to see if you have any other information in your what do you call it, Crystal? Y'all are into the technology.
In the portal, the Emma portal, yeah.
So, you know, we don't control that. We just try to work with Step Up and get answers to your questions.
That's great. 11,400 that have approved, right? That's
right,
half.
as of this morning.
So I'm going to follow that up with a question that came in. It says, do you believe there will be income limitations on the PEP scholarship next year? There are income limitations on it this year, and we still can't give these things away. So, yes, and then it's gonna change each year, but they're gonna roll out more scholarships as it goes. So, there was another question. I wanted to clarify about the PEP stating that kids had to take an annual norm reference test. The option for an evaluator will it be eliminated? The option for having an evaluator. Will this test determine if my kids move up to the next grade level? Brenda, chime in on that.
At this point, they want to collect test scores because that's something they can measure on success. They want to measure the success of the program, not your individual child. They recognize the parent is the educator. They want to provide any help that they can, but it's up to you to see that your child is progressing. It doesn't require in this PEP program that your child make educational progress, and there is no one that's going to check that.
Wow, Brenda, that sounds a lot like home education. Isn't that weird? It's almost like it was set up that way. Who did that?
Yeah. Was set
Who
up
lobbied for that? Yeah. Thank you for that, Brenda. Thank you for that. All right, Crystal, let's see. We have another one. This could be for you. Could someone help explain the process of how that scholarship money is spent? I think they want to know kind of how. Are there process questions like that in our forum?
Some. So we have information on the reimbursement cards, and I have a few other things. But the simple explanation is that you will have money inside your portal with Step Up, and then there will be certain things that you can directly purchase using what Step Up is going to provide. They're going to have a shop that will have certain things that are pre-approved that you can directly purchase there. There are certain vendors and providers that will be direct pay that will come straight out of your account. Those are not the only things that you can do, though. So the other way to purchase is to purchase something from your own money that is one of the approved purchases from the purchasing guide and submit your receipts for reimbursement. That's where the reimbursement card comes in. So the first time you submit something, and there will be a place inside the Step Up portal to submit reimbursement requests once all of this rolls out. And the first time you submit a reimbursement request, they will mail you an empty debit card. And then when your reimbursement is approved, the funds will be credited to that card, and then you keep that card, and that's the card that they're going to, in the future, every time you submit a reimbursement request, when it's approved, it will be added to that card. So there are two ways to spend the money. One is through the direct pay or direct purchasing stuff inside Step Up portals, and then the other way is going to be reimbursement, but you just want to make sure that you're looking at that purchasing guide because it explains all the details of what's considered an approved purchase, and there are spending caps for certain categories. So you want to make sure that you check that purchasing guide, which we do have linked in our forum, and it's also on Step Up's website.
Yes, we do have that linked in our forum, and it's also available on Step Up. Speaking of that, in the purchasing guide, another question, are field trips covered?
Yes, but there are certain criteria and qualifications for what counts, and there's a spending cap limit of, I think, $500.
All
So,
right. Are theme parks covered?
I think Florida theme parks are listed there, but again, you want to check the purchasing guide because it has sort of a breakdown of every category that they've decided fits within the categories in statute. They've broken that down into subcategories, and then each subcategory has an explanation of what fits in that and how to tell what qualifies for that, as well as a spending cap. Not every category has a spending cap, but a lot of them do.
So Jessica Castillo, she's new. She says, on the note of using the correct language for things, she says, sorry if this sounds silly. This is my first time doing home education. So how do we properly call a pod or a co-op? I think she's... Go ahead.
I would say a pod and a co-op are two different things.
Okay.
At least in my understanding of how I usually hear those terms used. I don't know if Brenda wants to chime in on that, but neither of those are terms in statute, but in the typical homeschool vernacular, a co-op is a group where parents get together and usually the parents take turns teaching the classes. There's some sort of an arrangement set up where the parents are cooperatively teaching, which is why it's called a co-op. And then there are, and for pods, usually what I'm hearing being talked about is a situation where parents have hired a certified teacher or multiple certified teachers, and they're kind of pooling their resources and having their students come to a place. And then there is something separate that is in statute called a home education instructional program. And that is sort of a more formal situation where it is a business that provides classes for home educating families, and they have teachers there that they have hired, contracted, brought on board. That home education instructional program is an approved PEP expense, and the criteria for that are in the purchasing guide. Something more casual like a co-op is not usually going to be an approved expense because it's not going to fit into one of the categories that's in the purchasing guide. A pod might qualify as long as it meets the part-time private tutoring requirements that are explained in the purchasing guide.
So Dina, one of our home education instructional program people, says she had a question that came to her that she wants us to answer. It's, can you call my co-op and help them become legal?
I'm not sure if you are a business, if you actually, I think the qualifications they need to look at are the ones that are in the purchasing guide that you already outlined. I don't think I can really add anything to that, Crystal. They just need to go look at what is required.
Yeah, so if you pull up the Step Up purchasing guide, there is a category that says tuition and fees for a home education instructional program. And under that category, it gives the exact criteria that a business would need to meet to fall under that category. If they meet those qualifications, then they can go to Step Up to the PEP page or to the provider page. I think it's linked in both. And there is an application for home education instructional programs. There's a provider application for that specifically. But they'll need to have made sure that they meet those criteria first. Otherwise, they're not going to be approved. But they can get added to the pre-approved list through Step Up if they submit that application, as long as they meet those criteria. They don't have to be on that pre-approved list, just to be clear. Step Up has told us that as long as a program meets all those qualifications, even if they're not on the pre-approved list, they should still be reimbursable. But if they want to be added to the pre-approved list just to make it easier for people to find them, then they'll need to submit that application.
Good. Somebody asked, follow back to the standardized test, which standardized tests can be proctored by parents at home via online. Please reference the DoD's website on that. We have a link out to that from the forum as well as to which tests can be used through PEP, and then also they'll update that information to. They've already updated it once, but they'll continue to update it as it pertains to PEP, and they become more clear on their answers.
Our latest word from Step Up on the test was that they're going to go by the test manufacturer's recommendation for how it needs to be administered. So we don't have a separate list right now of which ones allow for a parent to administer based on the manufacturer's recommendations. But if you look at that list from the DOE, you can go down through it, and if you want to do your research to check into the tests that are on that list and see what the manufacturer's requirements are, that should give you an idea of how it would need to be administered.
VRVR asks, I saw that FLVS is not covered. Does this also include FLVS Flex?
FLVS is covered, but you have to pay for it out of your scholarship.
PEP covers it. It should.
And won't they be? The last we heard was that there'll be a direct pay vendor in the portal eventually, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So double check on that with Step Up. But as last we heard, FLVS is covered. So I think we have another question here, and then we get back to yours. There has been some confusion about using PEP funds after, I think you were actually talking to me about this, after graduating high school for college. In your previous live chats, it's been said after the student graduates, funds will be returned to the state. However, since the new parent handbook came out, some were saying that that's not the case. Some screenshots have been floating around saying funds can be used for up to 2 years after graduation. I'm extremely confused. Did anything change? No, nothing has changed. The language in the statute, Crystal, do you want to get clarification?
Let me jump in here. I emailed the new person that's over the PEP program at Step Up, and he responded back to me this morning, just actually while we've been on this. So we will be posting these on the website, but for now, the answer is an eligible PEP student may receive a scholarship award until the student graduates or turns 21, whichever occurs first.
Okay.
And the student will receive no additional funds, even if they're in the scholarship program, if the account balance reaches $24,000.
So there's a cap of $24,000.
The next question I ask is, can the scholarship funds be used after the student, oh shucks, let's see, I just lost that page.
Graduates.
Touched the wrong thing. Okay. Can the scholarship funds be used after the student graduates or turns 21? And then the answer is reimbursements for eligible program expenditures may continue until the account balance is expended or the remaining funds have reverted to the state due to inactivity in the account for 2 consecutive years. Okay, and then I ask the question, even though the funds can be used for a post-secondary institution, does the law allow them to be put into a 529 college account? And the answer was the PEP scholarship does not allow for the student to have a 529 college savings account. And then the fourth question I ask is, could the scholarship funds after graduation be used for post-secondary expenses other than tuition and fees if the student received a Bright Future scholarship? In other words, you get two expenditures. And he says, yes, the scholarship funds can be used for an eligible expense if the student is receiving a Bright Future scholarship. So looking at the list of eligible expenses, Crystal, you can weigh in here too, but it looks to me like could be used for a tutor. Maybe your child needs some help in math in college. So a tutor would be an eligible expense if that tutor is a certified teacher, according to what's in statute. Can you think of other things that they can use as eligible expenses? I don't believe it would be for tuition and fees because Bright Futures may cover those and they're not going to pay twice.
Do you, just as a clarification, if a student doesn't have Bright Futures, could they use PEP to pay for their tuition and fees at a college?
Yes. It says so in the statute.
So that's a question I've been getting a lot. And it's good that we have an answer on that now, directly from the head of the PEP program at Step Up. And it's also the answer people were hoping for, I think, that yes, you can continue to use those funds after graduation. You just will not be awarded new funds, and you can continue to use them for eligible expenses until those funds are used up or your account has been inactive for 2 years, correct?
Yes. There's some other conditions, but I don't see those actually being a problem. It's like if you've determined that you've used those funds fraudulently, your account can be closed. That's why parents sign that sworn compliance statement, because the scholarship funding organizations, which are Step Up and AAA, want to ensure that the parents know what they can and can't do so that they don't get their accounts closed for fraudulent reasons, even though maybe the parent didn't know better. They want you to know up front. So they make you read the sworn compliance form and sign it so that you're aware of what you can and can't do.
Yes.
Right. And I'm anticipating some spin-off questions from this discussion. So I'm just going to ask one of them that I think people are going to ask. If it can be used for eligible expenses, would that mean that, say, right now there's a category in there for setting up a home classroom. So would that mean that, when they hit college, they could buy a new desk, or when they hit college, they could buy books that aren't directly textbooks because books is a category? Is it going to be anything that's an eligible expense is fair game? Is that what they're saying?
I'm sure that will be determined by what people ask, but the answer I'm getting is if it's an eligible expense for the K through 12 on that list, then you can spend the money on it for college. But a better use of that may be your books and digital materials that are on that list for college than setting up a classroom. I would look very carefully at purchasing items that are clearly educational. I'm not saying that they won't be approved, but I would just think that parents would want to be careful that they're spending the money in a way that meets the scholarship requirements or those things that are on the list, and then use your money that you may have to spend for books, spend that money to set up your classroom. I mean, you don't want to run out of curriculum or books for college if they're still using books. I mean, that may be an archaic thing. That may be from the dinosaur age. I don't know.
Well, and clarification on the devices thing may come,
Right.
and open that up as well. Not saying that it will, but it's possible. So that might also eventually become another expense or an added one. That's possible. Someone said that this is a throwback to previous part of the conversation. Oh, someone asked for clarification. Someone said they saw a screenshot saying 2 years and another that said 4 years on the funds left over after graduation. Pretty sure we just clarified that, saying after 2 years of inactivity.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So I just wanted to double clarify that.
Yeah, that's for closing the account.
Closing the account.
And that phrase 2 years of inactivity is the same phrase Brenda and I were given a few weeks ago. So that we were just wanting to clarify before we release that out publicly. So we've been, I don't know where the other information is floating around, but that has been the consistent answer. That has been the consistent answer that we're getting from Step Up is 2 years of inactivity on your account.
Yes, and wherever you're seeing this information where they're sharing this screenshot and that screenshot and someone says this, someone says that, come to our forum and ask that, share that, ask that question. And whenever we provide you with an updated, accurate answer, invite those people to our forum to get accurate, updated information as well, so that we can cut down on the confusion and assumptions that get bounced around out there.
On that point really quick, if we get new information that is an update to or contradicts something that we previously had, I do go back into the forum and update those related posts, and I post update as of with the date. Yeah. So that way we're doing our best to ensure that what is in our forum is easy to follow and time-stamped and is the most accurate, up-to-date information.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And may I just say, Crystal is doing a phenomenal job. You just don't know how long. She sure is. How long?
I know how long it is.
Yeah, it takes
let's give her a clap. Crystal, you're amazing. Yes, truly amazing. You do great work. Absolutely. I don't know how any of us would do any of this without her. She's literally I have to tell her to stop. To be honest with you, I look over at her sometimes and I'm like, are you answering another email? Let them just check the forums, please. Go hug our children and let them. Yes, yeah. Sunday is for God. Let the people rest. Oh man. So
I want to read a statement out of this bill, which now is law. And Jason, before I do that, tell them how they can find on our website a link to the new statute or to the actual bill itself, because some of this is already written out and you wouldn't have to keep asking these questions if you knew where to go look up the information.
That's a good point. So I pulled up the screen share here, and at flhef.org, right at the top of the screen, you're going to see resources. And if you hover over it or on mobile, click the little thing and it'll drop down resources. There is a page called downloadable docs. And when you click on it, it's going to load up the page. We have a little widget here that lets you access forms, PDFs, guides, and things that we've put up here. Sample termination letter, if you need one of those to send in. We kind of co-wrote one for you so that you could use. And my wife wrote it, not me, so she doesn't say things like co-writ one. But in here, it is the HB1 Personalized Education Bill Enacted PDF. So the enacted bill. Enrolled. Well, on our site it says enacted.
Well, we need to actually update that because it's now a statute.
Okay. Yeah, when we first threw it up there, it was enacted.
Right.
So we can update that. It's the same bill, though, or it's the same one. Exactly. So from the original to now. On the downloadable doc, it's there. So you can download it and go along and read along with Brenda. But Brenda, go ahead.
It says in here, for the people that are really worried about the scholarship funding organization being over intrusive into your program, it says an eligible nonprofit scholarship funding organization, that's Step Up or AAA, may not further regulate, exercise control over, or require documentation beyond the requirements of this subsection unless the regulation, control, or documentation is necessary for participation in the program.
There you go. That is worth a moment of silence. That's awesome. That really, truly is awesome. Read it again. Read it again.
It says, and this, if somebody wants to look it up for themselves, go into this HB1 document. It's on page 62, line 1536. An eligible nonprofit scholarship funding organization may not further regulate, exercise control over, or require documentation beyond the requirements of this subsection unless the regulation, control, or documentation is necessary for participation in the program. Meaning if they ask you to turn in your income tax report for the purpose of determining eligibility, they can do that because that's a requirement for participation. So they can do that, but they can't regulate anything else that doesn't require them or gives them authority in statutes to ask for those things.
That's awesome. I'm out of questions, and
I had one thing I want to hit really quick before we.
Okay.
I've been getting a lot of questions from people specifically about technology and computers and laptops, and we've been suggesting to people that you reach out to your legislators because that's a statutes issue. I don't want to go deep into details on that, but there's a lot about it in our forum if you want to go read those. What I did want to hit is that people have been asking me, how do you contact your legislators? So I actually made a post in our forum this past week with instructions and links for exactly how to do that. So if you have been wondering how, that is now there, and I just wanted to let everybody know that it's there for your reference.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's great, because personally I find that some of the state legislature websites and the other ones, like I find them a little cumbersome and difficult to use. They could use a user interface overhaul. Maybe they'll hire our company to do that.
That would be awesome.
That would be great. If they need it, we're here. But I don't have any further questions. I'm out of the ones. I've been following the chat. Everyone is now saying thank you. This is so helpful. Information overload. You know what? Speaking about information overload, I feel you. But the videos are going to stay here, and they're going to stay reviewable. I also put them up on YouTube for us to review, so people can go to YouTube and watch them if they want to.
I post highlights in the forums if there's a new question, like today when we answered the question about after graduation. I'm going to create a forum post about that as well.
So if it's too much to take in, and if it's too much to take in right now, digest what you can, save the video, come back to it. Invite others to come and join in on the fun that you see here. And I'm going to shill one more time before we get Brenda off of this call. I just have to. So if you haven't yet, we've had about 50 people on this entire time, and we do not have 50 subscriptions and supports. It is free to create a membership profile on the website and benefit from the forums and the questions and connect with your lobbyists, talk directly with us. It is free to have a membership, and we have no intention of ever putting any of the support that we do behind a paywall. But we do ask you, we plead with you, we beg you. There are 50 people on here, and it would be lovely if shortly after this video we had 50 $5 donations that were guaranteed monthly that would come in. That would go a long way to helping us keep a full-time lobbyist. Sessions, the committee meetings are about to start, what, September, Brenda?
Yes, the week of September the 18th.
Mm-hmm. And we are working hard to get our new mentoring lobbyists moved up to Tallahassee. There's a lot that's got to go into that, and we have a lot of needs right now, and every little bit would go a very, very long way if we all pulled together. So we've put different tiers up here that you could use if you're capable. The higher tiers are great. If not, every little bit helps. If we all put our hands in together, many hands make light work. And
Amen.
I will stop saying that. Brenda, you have been doing this since 1985 and four. That's right, 1984. Bless you for being with us. Bless you for knowing what book, chapter, and verse and line of the legislation all of our answers are. As we sit here and we have questions out the ears, you always know exactly where to find that thing that gives us peace of mind that you've been working on with others. A lot of these programs, the scholarships, the Gardner Scholarship, which is now FESUA, the Craig Dickinson Act, which is named after your husband, that allows people to go to public schools and play sports and get their extracurriculars so that they can't look at us and say, homeschoolers have no social skills. Like, yeah, maybe not, but we can tackle really hard on your football team, right?
Right.
We're the best of them. And thanks to you, we have all of that. And we want to make sure that as we see what's going on around us in this world, it is crazy out there, but it is nice to know that we all live in a society that is governed by rules and that we have a way of impacting and influencing those rules and making sure that the freedom-loving people who want to educate our own children, because we don't believe that they're anyone else's property or responsibility but ours to raise and teach them, that we can. So thank you.
One other reason for them to join and give us their information. We're not going to do anything with their information. We're not going to make it public.
Correct.
But if there is a need for them to help in a grassroots effort on a bill that's coming up, this is our only means of reaching out to the community and letting them know what the means, what they need to do to help us. So we're building a list for advocacy.
Yes. Yeah, many voices make louder efforts as well. So yeah, definitely fill out the contact form on the site as well. It's at the bottom, I believe, of every page. And if you're willing to help, either be an ambassador or speak, those are things that you can designate there. And we get a copy, and we're able to tag you so that if we do need you, we can call upon you. And that is what we use that information for. We don't sell any of your information or share our membership list with anyone else. So
just to add to that, if you're willing to actually go to Tallahassee and give testimony, if there's ever a situation where that's needed, there's not a checkbox for that on the form, but when you fill out your contact form, if you will just type that in, there's like you can leave a message box. I am manually curating a separate list of those people so that if there's ever a need for us to actually have parents show up in Tallahassee, we have a contact list for that as well.
That is so awesome, because frequently I spend, hours trying to track down a parent who can come and speak, and a parent can influence a whole committee. Yes. So we need to know those people. It makes my job easier, and it also helps us get legislation that works better for homeschoolers. And a prime example of that was getting the dual enrollment book bill passed, where the legislature pays for home educated students' books for dual enrollment.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think that brings us to a close for today. We still have 42 beautiful people watching. Do you have any more words for today's broadcast, Brenda?
No, I'll save them for next week.
All right. Crystal?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Well, without further ado, you all have an amazing Monday, and God bless.
Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome, Brenda.